Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Wrestling Skull podcast. I'm your host, John Scott, joined as always by my co-host, Matt Essex. And Matt, how are you doing this week, and anything you've been up to?
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, I mean, I know we had a little bit of trouble, and that might be the reason why this came out a little bit later. But all cleared up now. Everyone's safe. Good.
Yeah, good to hear from your end. If I do kind of lose voice during this, it's because I'm just coming out of the back end of a little bit of flu that I had in the last few days. But thankfully, my voice has remained somewhat consistent. But just in case I do feel it slightly crackling up at the back of my throat. We're going to do this podcast show in two halves this week, everybody. So this is part one, and the theme for our first kind of show is going to be all about. We're going to go through the WWE, the latest happenings from, of course, Roadblock that we saw this past Sunday, and of course Raw as well. And in our second part of our episode, we're going to be talking about almost somewhat of a UK battlefront going to take place very early on in January, in fact. And we're going to talk about that and all the implications, what our feelings are, because it's certainly raised a lot of mixed reactions this side of the pond anyway. And of course we're going to try and take some emails as well. But Matt, let's start top of the show on this half. As a summary, of course I didn't want to do a full review because I wanted to keep 50-50 with both Raw and SmackDown, and I didn't want to favour one over the other. But your summary and sum up of some of the stuff, some of the key things that happened at Roadblock, Matt. I'm going to start with maybe what I felt was one of the. Well, actually, there were a couple of big ones here, but in particular, the tag team titles finally, lost for the New Day. Of course, they already done the record. We did say a long time ago on this podcast, I think they were aiming for that record to go from Demolition. And then, it was going to be anybody's sort of even money from there on in their next opponents. First and foremost, Matt, we spoke about Cesaro and Sheamus a lot on this podcast. Of all the teams that New Day have been up against, were they the right team to finally get that crown and go over on a team that has sustained that title for some time?
Well, I would say because they've definitely got chemistry, and it's some of the best work that Sheamus has been doing in a long time. And it kind of goes without saying that Cesaro hasn't had a lot going on well for him lately, so this is also another new kind of high for Cesaro. So it kind of lifts them both out of the obscure and puts them in the spotlight a bit. And they definitely need something like that because they're both top superstars, but they're often so overlooked. And it's really not fair because Cesaro, he can do anything in that ring, and Cesaro is a real kind of like Sheamus as well is a real hard worker. So I'm glad they did, but at the same time, I do really feel kind of disappointed with the WWE because it does just sort of feel like they just want to slap Demolition in the face and go, you can't have that record anymore, because just to go 1 week, or less than a week, after breaking the record, and then just drop the title to someone else, it feels a little bit unfair, really, because I was hoping that if they were going to do a storyline like that and they were going to become new record setters, at least make it an impressive record, at least keep it going into the Royal Rumble or WrestleMania. It would have been a huge match at WrestleMania to see if someone could take that from them, building an even more impressive record from what Demolition had left off. It just kind of feels like what happened with Nikki Bella and AJ, when they took that off her and then Nikki Bella dropped it only, a matter of days afterwards.
Yeah, I kind of especially after the aftermath. I know you feel a certain way during the pay-per-view when you're watching it, but a couple of days removed, you kind of see it differently, and you think, oh well, that made sense for that. But my feelings about this is I have nothing against Sheamus and Cesaro. I think they're a great team, but here's the thing with the New Day. People will argue, Matt, that New Day have become somewhat stale. But listen, WWE signed and kind of put it in concrete that they were going to back the New Day to the hill to get past this record. I kind of feel like they've ripped the concrete cement that they had there with that deal. They've just ripped it up, and they've just kind of like lost anything they could have really got out of this. Like, to really make some money on this whole thing, like you said, Matt, would have been to go into the Royal Rumble, which is going to be in front of a huge audience, or WrestleMania, and have it really, the tag team belts as the, you know, one of the biggest focused matches for a change at one of these big shows. Like, you know, would have been quite a big deal if you ask me. You know, and you know, the thing is, Matt, I suppose if you look back at New Day's opponents in the past, like, I felt like in particular the club have had it bad. Like, they didn't come out of that well from where they came off. Like, there's been a lot of teams, Matt, that have gone up against them. You know, and they've sacrificed a lot of these teams, especially Gallows and Anderson in particular, over the SummerSlam period. You just feel that, you know, has it all been wasted slightly? That the whole getting the rub. I know it was I guess it was what I call a very I don't know how to describe it. A very kind of company-driven feel-good moment. Like, it wasn't, you know, as natural as perhaps it should have been when Cesaro and Sheamus won. That all the fans were really happy. I didn't get that vibe. I don't know if you felt any differently about it, but and also, Matt, what's your take on the New Day in general in that match? Because recently people have argued, are they heels or are they baby faces? It's really tough to tell, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's incredibly tough to tell. But then the same thing can be said about Cesaro and Sheamus.
Sure.
I mean, Cesaro's face, Sheamus is a heel, you know?
Yeah.
And they sort of play on that. It was an incredibly grey match to know who you're supposed to cheer for at times and who you were supposed to be booing. I don't think that particularly went down well with the fans. That might have been one of the attributing factors to the kind of lackluster response at the end of the match. I guess, I don't know, really. I would say they're more a face, you know, but it's like it's like they mould themselves to who their opponents are. If they're facing the club, then they're face. If they're facing someone like Cesaro and Sheamus, then they're sort of heelish. Yeah,
I'm with you there. I don't mind the idea, the concept of Sheamus being heel and Cesaro being face, because I think it's something different that we haven't always seen, and I don't mind going with that. But I think with the New Day, it's complicated because you don't want to kind of just get to the point where they get so, like, because this team were the best on the mic last year, if you ask me. They were the only original people out there that were doing different things, you know, unscripted. And I really enjoyed it. And they got themselves over from being a heel to, you know, a very popular team. Now I feel like some of the stuff is getting a little bit old. And it's not all down to them, because if you're always going to be the title holders, you know, it's only a matter of time before you do get slightly stale. And I think it hasn't helped that they haven't had much competition for those. You know, a lot of the teams have had to have programs for like 2 or 3 months at a time, and I think people have just been waiting. You know, they've not expected a change because they've been kind of waiting for this record to be broken, and of course it finally did. Man, I guess the interesting part now is what happens to New Day going forward. I will say this much. I know I had a few emails saying, you know, this is the end of the New Day and they're all going to split off. I'm going to say a firm absolutely not to that. And the only reason I say that is because they've got some crazy deal going on next year that I know that the New Day are branding. So that tells me that they're not splitting up anytime soon. I think it's like another foods kind of outlet that they're going to introduce with the Bootio stuff. So for me, they're not going to split up. I think it would be wrong to split them up as well, because, you know, they can still offer a lot to that tag team division. And plus, the other thing, Matt, really, what would they do in singles competition at the moment? You know, in a time where, you know, there's not a lot going on. What do you think about that, Matt? Would you keep them together, or would you like a divide?
No, I'd keep them together. I mean, it's been the best thing in Big E's career since he joined the New Day.
Yeah.
It got Xavier over when he wasn't really doing a lot, and he definitely cemented his position within WWE. And, Kofi, he'd been around a long time at this point, and, people might have argued that he was going a little bit stale. So it sort of breathed new life into all of them. And I know people said they're getting kind of stale now, but it would be such a shame to break them up. I mean, I'm sure they can keep it easily going another 6 months, because then after that, if it's going to go like it used to be, there'll be another brand split anyway, so that could be an excuse for them. But at least keep going until then.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Okay, let's just hit some other points that happened in Robot. Matt, Braun Strowman, Sami Zayn, was you a fan of what we saw there?
Oh, hell no. I can't explain what was going on in this match. For one thing, it didn't really cement Sami Zayn as a hero in my eyes. It just was kind of, he's such a survivor, isn't he? When, he spent a lot of the time outside the ring talking to Mick Foley, about 2 minutes out of the 10 there, spent doing that. And then, just to say he won the match, it was a draw at best. No one pinned anyone. No one was proven to be a better man in this match. It was just so out of place.
Yeah, I hate those kind of finishes where, WWE, all they're trying to do in this is protect both guys, but they've done it in such a poor way. They didn't really protect both of them. It actually made them both look weaker, because Braun Strowman, who's been on this crazy journey about, the big man jobber style, I mean, he's been doing all that now, it makes him look weaker, if you ask me, so it doesn't do well for him. And Sami Zayn, I just don't see that where I can last 10 minutes being an incredible kind of achievement, really. And I'm not enjoying the whole stuff with him and Mick Foley. I think it's overdone slightly. It's a little bit like, I've seen this before. I know the guy's trying to get passion across, and I can buy some of it, but it's just like, I don't really get the concept of him and Braun Strowman as a feud. It would have been better if it was Sami Zayn in this predicament, but he's not against Braun Strowman. He's up against another guy on the roster, where you might have been able to do a clean finish in some respects. But Braun Strowman seemed to make zero sense. Like, why are we already doing the ultimate underdog kind of thing? Like, that can't always be Sami Zayn's go-to thing. It has to be where we can start seeing Sami Zayn as a credible guy who can hold his own, not just against... He doesn't always have to work programs where he has to be the underdog all the time. I think that gets overused. And the thing is as well, Matt, I think if you followed Sami Zayn in NXT as we have, we've kind of seen it all before, and we're fed up with that. We want, we want the next chapter. We want to see what this guy can do, given the ball a little bit. And get him into some more exciting, kind of programs. That's my take on it. Anyway, going forward, Matt, what do you think for either of these two to come to that? Braun Strowman, first of all.
Well, I kind of don't want to see it, but I'm assuming it's got to go to another match. I think they should at least have a definitive winner. But I don't really see it going well for Sami Zayn, which is kind of a shame. I think that he could have been working with better people for him at this time. I don't think Braun was the best kind of pick for this. I think they would have been better off, seeing as they're such a fan of bringing in older talent these days, it would have been better to see Braun paired off against an older talent who can afford a loss. Even if it was somebody like Jericho, because we know Jericho's not long for the company now, so I would have preferred something like that. Yeah,
no, I'm with you on that. So yeah, that didn't really do too much for me, I've got to be honest with you. Okay, I'm trying to think of anything else before we get to the